So first of all, thank you so much for joining in, ma'am. And I really look forward to this conversation. Really excited to talk to you.
Same here. Same here. Yes.
Ma'am, so let us begin. First of all, for every law student, we are looking for internships.
Right.
And the main aim is to get a long-term internship and then be placed. But what are law firms
Sure.
looking for in an intern or when they recruit? So what is the main
Right.
thing firms look
So,
for?
yes. So, like when you said that, what are law firms looking for while they are recruiting someone? So, let's say while they are looking for assessment internships, or let's say when someone's looking for a job, right? So, there are, in my understanding, there are dual things that law firms look at. The first thing is that how consistent have you been in one domain of law? Like, for example, let's say, have you done most of your internships in corporate laws? So then it'll be easier for you to apply to the corporate team. If all of your internships have been centered around, let's say, arbitration, it will be very easy for you to pitch yourself, to the arbitration teams or to the boutique arbitration law firms as well. Now, let's say on the other hand, there's somebody who's done, let's say, around 5 to 6 internships, but all 5, 6 in different domains of law, one in IPR, one in real estate, one in corporate laws, etc. It becomes very difficult for a law firm to understand that which team is this person applying for, and very difficult for them to finally get placed in that particular organization, right? That's one thing. So I think consistency in everything, whether it's internships, publications, any certificate courses, etc., that you're doing, is very important for you to show that you're not a distracted employee, right? That is one thing. Second, that the law firms are looking at is what skills are you bringing to the table. Now, for example, let's say if you are wanting to join a law firm as an associate or as an assessment intern, and all your CV is able to showcase is some sort of research work and nothing else, that is definitely not enough for you to get employed, because they can make any intern also do that research work at any point in time, right? So you are not employable. So I'll give you an example. Like, for example, let's say if you want to join the corporate team of a law firm, mergers and acquisitions, right? Now, till the time you don't know how to do a due diligence, till the time you don't know, even haven't been exposed to ever, let's say, a transactional document like a shareholders agreement, share purchase agreement, a business transfer agreement, etc., term sheets, and all of that, till that point in time you're not employable by the law firm. Like, you may have done a lot of consistent work. A lot of students may come and say that, Ashna, you said consistent work is supposed to be there in all our internships are in corporate laws, but consistency also in terms of the skill set, so which I feel that you can start getting those skill set with boutique firms and other organizations. But yes, I think skills, at least some exposure to the skill. Nobody's asking you to draft an entire transactional document yourself in the first go, but at least some basic exposure to this and some due diligence, of course, goes a long way in you getting inducted to the corporate team. And likewise, it goes for different practice areas. So I think skill and consistency are the two things that law firms are looking at while they're wanting to select.
Right, ma'am, but like you said, consistency is the key. How do we identify which area to work on? Because by the time we are in our third year, we are still exploring. Most of like we get
Right.
two internships per year.
Right.
So,
So I think there are. Sorry. Huh. Yes, you were saying something. Yes.
how are we supposed to, get an idea without exploring?
Right, fair enough. And I think it's a good question. In fact, I think I would want to answer this for everybody who's watching this, because I personally feel that, there are so many areas of law these days, like 50, 60, 70 areas of law, that it's almost impossible for us to explore all, while we are in law school. And 5 year law, 3 year law is completely not enough for us to explore everything. So I feel that there are certain factors through which you should start negating a few areas of law. Like, for example, let's say a lot of people would say that, okay, I don't want to be in litigation for whatever reasons, that maybe, let's say, lack of income in the initial years, or stability factors, or let's say they wouldn't want to ever become full-time litigators themselves, so they're like, we don't want to go into an area such as litigation. So a lot of areas are very highly dependent on litigation. Like, for example, arbitration is very highly dependent on litigation, insolvency law is very highly dependent on litigation. You can try and start negating those areas, because that is where the elements of litigation are going to happen. So by that logic, you can start negating a few areas that are extremely litigation heavy, right? That is one way of looking at things. Another way is that, what is your background like? Like, for instance, for me, I was a commerce student, right? So I understood so many concepts from, let's say, the Companies Act, or just generally, concepts about shares, debentures, corporations, partnerships, etc., because I'd studied that while I was in, my class 11th and 12th, because of being the fact that I was a commerce student. So I think that could be one way. If you were a science student, maybe you can find and see if you have inclinations towards patents law, towards technology laws, etc. That could be another way. Not saying that people from different domains cannot venture into another domain like that, but yes, that could be one way of exploring, by starting to explore that area. And then of course, there are certain factors that one should also keep in mind. Like for example, check how many jobs are available in that area. Then obviously check what is the scope of growth in that area. Like, are you always going to do one sort of work? Is it completely very niched out, or there is a high scope of transferability also, into another areas, etc. So I think when you combine all of these factors, you're able to negate quite a lot of factors. Like, I'll give you an example. So let's say if today I'll be like, I want to do sports law. It's a very good area of law. It's a very interesting area of law. Everybody who's a sports enthusiast, they might want to do it at some point. But when you see at the job opportunities, they're so less. They're like literally one or two law firms in the entire country, that possibly actually do sports law in its full capacity. So then that becomes a reason enough for you to maybe keep it aside for some time, unless you're extremely motivated and you made it your life's goal to pursue sports law. That's a very different thing. But then if you are not in that boat and you're like, I'm okay with not doing it because it does not have enough number of jobs, is a reason enough for you to keep it aside. In fact, I had spoken about this in one of my LinkedIn posts also very recently, that I've seen so many people, picking up areas of law just because they are trending. In fact, a lot of people just would come up to me and be like, Ashna, what is the trending area of law, right? This is a very usual question. So I don't think we should go after trends. We should also see that what is the employability in that field. Do we have the acumen to pursue it or not, and then proceed forward with it. Of course, you can club different areas. Like let's say you can club arbitration and insolvency together. You can club IPR and media laws together. That is definitely there. But yes, at one point you'll have to take that leap of faith, start pursuing that area. And if you like it, don't get distracted by other areas. Just continue pursuing it till you feel that, okay, this may not work out for you any longer, and then you can switch out.
Right. Thank you so much for answering that question, ma'am. I just have one follow-up question, and this is not. So I had a conversation with one of my senior yesterday, and he again told me, Rashmi, market sahi nahi hai. People are not getting placed, and I've been listening this since I entered my law school in 2020. So is this true?
Yes.
Are law firms not hiring, or are they not paying as much as they used to pre-COVID?
I don't think that we can give a blanket statement to this, because as years would pass by after COVID, of course, there would be certain changes in the market. Like for example, while COVID was there in the country till like I think from 2020 onwards, till at least 2-3 years after that, we saw that a lot of disputes teams were not hiring as rigorously as corporate teams were, because courts were the first ones to get affected, because there were a lot of people getting accumulated in the courts. So a lot of things were happening virtually, only urgent matters were being taken up, etc. So definitely there was an impact on the revenue of the disputes teams. Possibly that is what is heard, and that's why the hiring wasn't done as frequently as it was done in corporate laws, right? That is one thing. However, as and when the years have passed, we have seen a lot of these firms, especially the bigger tiered firms or the full service firms as we may call it, it depends on the number of partners that the firm has for a different practice area. Like for example, let's say if a firm has very high revenue generating capacity for, let's say, corporate laws, of course they're going to hire more for corporate roles as compared to disputes or other niche areas like IPR or technology laws or competition laws, right? Because they just have like two teams for these areas of law. So definitely any person who's pursuing disputes may just feel like the market is not good. In fact, instead of saying that, we could just say that the firm did not have a hiring capacity for a specific area of law, but they still did end up hiring for other areas in which they had the capacity to hire, right? That is one way of putting it. But yes, definitely, because as we all may have heard it at some point, that recession has already hit the US and the UK economies. So definitely that effect has trickled down to our economy as well, and it will in the coming years as well. So I do completely agree with your senior that yes, the market condition is not exactly very good. So which is why I always tell people that first look at employability. Once you have some secure option for yourself, only then go out and become that explorer and be like, okay, now I want to see what other options I may have. So in this economy, you can't afford to possibly, let's say, leave your jobs for your passions or leave your jobs for something which is a little bit risky, at this point in time.
Ma'am, actually, thank you so much for pointing it out, because as we talk among our peers, this interest factor, passion factor, it is so like everyone wants to do something else just because they are.
Right, because it's in trend basically.
It looks interesting, and
Right,
everyone is
right,
also supporting that idea. Whoever you speak,
right.
if you feel you can do it, do it, do it, do it. And we don't
See,
think.
even I am of the idea that yes, if you can do it, you can. But then, you have to be practical also, right, about it. I mean, see, I am, I think, a very big living testimony of the fact that I actually left, two of my jobs from Sam and Dua, and like, I started something from scratch. So I can't be the one who preaches, don't do something which your heart doesn't say. It's just that if somebody comes to me for practical advice, my decision at that time wasn't very practical. Leaving Sam is never practical, right? That is one thing, it gives you a lot of salary and money. So my decision wasn't very practical. My decision was based on a lot of maybe privileges attached to me personally as a candidate, right? But if someone comes to me for advice, I am never going to be like, oh, follow your heart and like, do whatever you want to, because tomorrow you have to earn for yourself and be financially independent also. And if you just go follow your heart and that doesn't happen, then you're going to come back to me, right? And you're going to be like, you gave us that advice. So, I mean, you get the point, right? Like, do something when you have a backup for yourself. That's pretty much what I would say.
Ma'am, since you talk to a lot of students on a daily basis, what are some
Right.
common mistakes that we are making
In
while
resume,
for
that
it?
you would say. Right. Okay. So we'll talk about both resume and cover letters in this. So let's say in resume, one mistake that I would want to point out for this session is that a lot of people would just write the vague ideas or things that they did at an internship. So for example, let's say if they've interned at a chamber, they would simply say, I have researched on laws, I have drafted a lot of legal documents, I've attended court proceedings. That's all. Now, I don't know which laws you researched on, what legal documents you drafted on, which court proceedings you handled, and even within the laws. Okay, this is one set of students. Another set of students would be like, okay, I worked on Arbitration and Conciliation Act. Great, you worked on that. But what under arbitration and conciliation? You couldn't have possibly worked on the entire act, right? So make sure that whenever you're writing things on the CV, you are being very, very specific, hyper specific about things, that you've written. So even if let's say you worked on some section 13 of an act, write section 13 clause 1 clause B in the scope of what I've worked on that particular, section. Otherwise, it's not making any sense to the recruiter also. And even otherwise, tomorrow when you get interviewed by law firms, they can ask you anything under the sun that falls in the category of section 13 or even that entire act that you've written. So it's always good to make your CV watertight to something that you can be questioned on, right? And second, I feel over claiming things in the CV. Like I have seen second year, third year students, writing in their CV, I've drafted a shareholders agreement fully. Now, obviously, it's not possible. Like you wouldn't even know, a lot of things. Of course, there are a lot of brilliant students who, would actually know it. But I doubt any law firms in the country would actually give a third year or a second year student to draft an entire shareholders agreement, right? That's one thing. So don't overclaim things unless you've not done it. Of course, if you've done it, it's great. Kudos to you. I mean, you're going to get interviewed on it eventually and it will come out and open that you've genuinely done it. But if you haven't, why are you sort of making your resume unreliable, right? So write only if you were just given proofreading. So just write now proofread a shareholders agreement. There's no need for you to overclaim, right? That is one. Now coming on to cover letters is one basic mistake. I don't know if I have to point it out also, but I just keep saying it everywhere, is that people attach their cover letters to the email also, which is obviously not to be done. The cover letter needs to be the email itself. So let's say if you write to someone that, let's say, dear Rashmi, greetings of the day, I am so and so person, I am applying to your firm for an internship. That is the cover letter essentially, right? So you don't need to attach anything separately. That is one very basic mistake I keep seeing every now and then. And secondly, I think a cover letter has certain elements that people don't really adhere to. Like, for example, enough introduction is usually not given about themselves, that who are they, which college are they from, which year are they in, and what team are they applying for. So that team part is completely missing and the area of law is completely missing. Then you also need to talk about certain similarly placed organizations in the past. Like, for example, let's say if I want to apply to a corporate team of a law firm, and if I keep highlighting my volunteer experiences in my cover letter, they're not going to help me, right? Even though it might be with a very prestigious organization up till now, but still highlighting it randomly and at greater length is not going to affect me. So I'm just eating up space for my cover letter. So only picking up the most relevant things that pertain to the team area that you're applying for should be a part of the second paragraph. And the third paragraph, of course, talks about a call to action, which I never see in anybody's cover letter. I've very rarely seen someone reaching out to me with a call to action in their cover letter, that you have to tell the receiver of that cover letter that what is it that you expect out of them. So It could be anything in life. So let's say for an interview or for a job position, for an internship position, it can be let please let me know if I can be interviewed for the same, or anywhere. Let's say you're tomorrow applying for a funding, you're applying for, let's say, a podcast, if you want to invite to someone. If there is no call to action, the receiver of that message doesn't know what they have to do with that message, right? So make sure that there's always a call to action in the cover letter as well. So I think these are some of the mistakes that I very often see, and there has been no respite since the time I've started doing this. These mistakes continue to happen. So yeah, that.
I
Right.
think of these things, students get to learn a lot of these things through LinkedIn also. I read a lot of your posts, and other also they
Right.
professionals who write these things. So I mean, I learned these things by reading LinkedIn posts only. We did not have
Thank you.
such
Thank you.
knowledge or something like
Right.
that.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
ma'am, what are the
So yes.
yes,
Huh.
please?
No, no, you were saying yes. Please ask me.
I was just on the other question. How should one prepare for starting the internship?
For starting the internship, okay, so basically you have to know which team you've gotten selected for. So I would recommend you read the basic laws at least, so it's not like you're struggling with the basic Companies Act, Contracts Act right before you do, let's say, a corporate internship. Or if you're doing an IPR internship, you're not struggling with the IPR laws also. You're doing an arbitration internship, you're not struggling with CPC and Arbitration and Conciliation Act, right? So I think reading up on the basic laws, and secondly, of course, prepping or understanding the structure of some basic documentation attached to that subject matter. Like, for example, if I would go for an arbitration internship, my goal would be to understand, let's say, how is an application for appointment of arbitrator drafted? What are the components of a petition for, let's say, setting aside of an award, etc. That could be one thing. Or if I'm going for a corporate internship, I might just want to look at a few basic documentations like term sheets, SHAs, SPAs, SSAs, etc. For me to at least have a basic understanding of where that internship is heading towards, and I'm not struggling at the base level of that internship. So that allows me to maybe, let's say, perform better at those internships for myself. So yeah.
Ma'am, what are the challenges that students commonly face? Sometimes just knowing that I'm not alone who is facing this challenge, and others are also facing the same challenge, gives us some courage and confidence.
Right.
So,
Fair. I would say you can really be the best in the industry. In fact, I know someone personally, they are my mentee, and they were in the arbitration segment, and they are still in the arbitration segment, and they had done some of the best internships in the country. They even got a PPO interview by one of the law firm, only for them to get rejected later on, simply because the law firm was like, sorry, we are not suddenly hiring for disputes, right? So that can become such a big and non-motivational factor for somebody. Be like that, I prepared so hard all my law school life, I had to come to this point for me to, let's say, get that PPO, and then finally I'm not getting a PPO because simply the law firm decided to not move ahead with my candidature. So this is not just in this, I'm just saying the arbitrary nature of the profession itself, that even though you may have really good internships, you may have really good, entirety of the application can go fine and everything is great, but you still may not end up getting a response due to various factors. It could be because they are on a hiring freeze, maybe they have a better candidate than you, maybe they have someone's reference, etc. Maybe there was a candidate from a law school with which they had a partnership in the past, etc. So I think you shouldn't get demotivated on that. It's the nature of profession, and everybody goes through that. That is one. And secondly, I think there's an inherent discrimination which a lot of people would sort of sideline, and they'll be like that, okay, there's no discrimination. I personally feel there is. If you are from certain colleges, without naming those colleges and without getting into any controversy, I personally feel that if you're from certain set of colleges in the country, you are at random picked for such opportunities by virtue of you being in such colleges, right? Which is why students from other colleges who are not a part of that subset of colleges get demotivated, and rightly so. Why should they not get demotivated? So I'm just out there to just tell you that yes, it's validated, like your pain is validated, that yes, there is an inherent discrimination. That's how it is, and the only thing that we can say, that we can say that as a light at the end of the tunnel, that once you are out of the law school and you started working somewhere, let's say in a job, within a year or two, you can start shedding the title of your college, and it will no longer affect you, basically. So your merit comes into the picture regardless of whichever college you're from at the end of the day, right? So I don't think there's any there's any worrying factor to that effect, because at the end of the day, your merit gets counted for you to get promoted. till the level of a partner at one point in time. Your college name plays a big role, but only in the initial stages of you getting an internship or a job opportunity with an organization. So initially, if you are from a certain college and only because of that college you couldn't get through, let's say, a full service law firm and you had to work with a boutique firm, that is completely fine. Get that skill set. After a year or two, start applying to bigger firms, and they'll be more than happy to, onboard you at that point in time. So, but yeah, this is just my way of validating that yes, discrimination exists, and it's unfortunate that it exists, and it's again even more unfortunate if somebody is at the receiving end of that discrimination. But I can assure you that once you have certain skill set in your CV, you can really bypass anybody who's out there in the industry competing with you.
Right. Ma'am, being from a private and non-privileged institute, I have been told by one of my mentor that don't worry about the discrimination. It is there and it will be there because, right, so the top-notch law universities provide students with those skill sets which you are struggling to, understand and get here. But if you're ready to work 3x, then you will outshine. So you need not worry about that, but you just need to work
Yes,
harder. You need to
yes, yes,
kind of speak ki nahi, I do not, this tag of university does not define me. But
right, right.
discrimination
Yes,
is
you can have your weak moments. You can have your weak moments. You can rant it to your friends that, oh my God, like, it's because of my college that I'm not getting the opportunity. And it actually may be the real case that you're not getting an opportunity because of that. But you don't have to lose sight of the objective. That skill building and consistency is my objective. Until the day I don't have it, I'm not going to stop, basically. So that.
actually it is very natural also because even when we meet people from other universities, if they are from a very prestigious university, we'll judge them accordingly. And if somebody from a private university or not known university, they come and perform very well in mood, what we say is, अरे ये तो वहाँ का होके भी बहुत अच्छा कर लिया. That it's a surprising factor for us also.
Right,
So it's
right. Sometimes, huh? Yes, yes.
yes,
So
ma'am.
yeah.
But ma'am, if a student does not get an internship or job immediately, what should they do to stay on track?
So, I mean, there are so many things. Let's say you can do publications. That is, I keep suggesting everyone to, like, get into publications, of course, through blogs, research papers, whatever you might want to call it. You can do research assistantships with professors in the country. Various professors from Jindal Global Law School, NLU Delhi, NLS Bangalore, they do offer research assistantships to students. Definitely, one should apply for those. Thirdly, you can, if law firms are not wanting to give you an opportunity, you can intern with parallel organizations. Let's say if you can't get into the corporate team of a law firm, but you still want to learn something about Companies Act, intern at a CS, Company Secretary's office. If you can't intern at, let's say, a capital markets team of a law firm, try approaching VC funds and see if they can give you internships. If you can't intern at a banking team, try approaching an RP's office, try approaching a fintech startup, for you to learn those particular laws, right? So of course there are so many things. And lastly is, of course, subject specific competitions. Like for corporate people, it's, let's say, agreement drafting competitions. For arbitration people, it could be arbitration award drafting competitions, etc. So there are so many things for you to keep yourself busy with, and at the end of the day, see, it's just those 3-4 internships that are going to help you get that job or not. So it's okay if you're not interning for those all 10 times, during 5 years of law school. It's completely fine. At the end of the day, if you have 3 to 4 good internships, you can easily get a job post that. So yes.
Ma'am, lastly, what advice would you give to students who are overwhelmed about their future career in law?
I mean, it's great. Honestly, if you had talked to me, while I was in law school, I was very lost and I wasn't even like very, disturbed by that idea. I was very chill. I was like, "ठीक है, हो जाएगा, we'll see something." So I'm very, very, this is still a new thing for me, even after 4-5 years of being in this, coaching space, that I personally still feel that how are students so worried about their career, since the first year, second year of their law school, and how is it, that they have so much of motivation. So I think my only thing would be to tell people to relax a bit. I think they're taking it too seriously. The whole situation is being, blown out of proportion. I think they should just take it a little bit seriously. It's fine. And it doesn't really matter who you follow, who you don't. It's just that you need to be true to your area of law. And as quickly as you can decide it, your life is going to be very, very easy after that. The whole confusion, the whole uncertainty of the profession comes into the picture when you don't even know which direction you're headed to, and you just keep dumping things in your CV one after the other without realizing if it's important enough or not. So I think the focus should not be to put as many things in the CV, but just to only put the qualitative things. That is one. keep networking with people, the industry experts, or just generally out there, associates, partners, etc. To do that. And maybe, like, thirdly, take it a little bit chill also, like relax, enjoy your college life as well. Like, I'm very grateful for my college life. I attended so many fests in college, I did a lot of volunteer work, I did like so many things I remember in college, and that my college experience would have not even been half of what it was if I just continued to do internships after internships, right? So it's okay. It's always good to live your college life. At the end of it, you're going to get a job if you have the skill. So have faith in yourself and then move forward.
Talking about relaxing, ma'am, after CLAT 2024, I saw many people who could fortunately clear CLAT. And before starting their law school, they have done 3 internships.
Yes.
They have done 4
Yes,
internships.
yes. I have come across such people myself. I have no reason to believe that it's so serious now. It's like, like earlier in the time when I was in school and everything, people used to joke about कि if you want to be in IIT, you need to start while you are in class 2, class 3, etc. Like, it used to be a joke. But I think now the joke is on us, on lawyers, that if you want to be in a full service law firm as an associate, as an intern, you need to start even before you sit for your CLAT examination, right? And like, you need to start doing internships, which is very unfortunate. I hope nobody is following that trend any longer. It creates too much pressure on the students also. But yeah, it's just funnily tragic, to see this thing happening at this point in time. So I would just want, if anyone's watching this, that please don't take it so seriously. Also, just enjoy at least the first 2 3 years, enjoy, and even in the fourth and fifth year, manage your time effectively for you to enjoy other parts of college. Also, that's equally important for your personality enhancement as well. So yeah, I think that is what I wanted to say. Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. I got to learn so much, and I'm sure whoever will watch this episode will get some clarity. So thank you so much for taking out time and
Glad. Thank you so much for having me on board. Thank you so much.